welcome to the Lift Big, Eat Big show. We're on number 9, and Mona will be joining us soon. She's just having some technical difficulties. So we're going to start with myself and Colm. Colm is 2 times World's Strongest Man competitor, New Zealand's Strongest Man. Mona, when she joins, 6 times Karate World Champion, CrossFit Games athlete, Commonwealth Games medalist in Olympic weightlifting. So plenty of experience as we discuss. Today, we're going to cover how to get a massive squat. So squatting big weights, and we'll cover some of the news too. But let's start with the topic. Actually, before we start with the topic, everyone needs to know, Lift Big, Eat Big Underground, you get access to all of our programs. I think we have 28 now and counting. There's going to be more added, all geared towards strength sports, strongman, weightlifting, but also building muscle and getting strong. You can join that. There'll be a link in the description. And essentially, monthly subscription, you get all the programs, our private Discord community. Everything is under one price. And you can run any of the programs you want. You can flick between them, whatever you want to do. We cater to everyone in there. We also actually have a leg specialization program in there as well that will absolutely blow your legs up with a shit ton of squats. So that's handy for this episode. But let's start, Colm. Let's maybe start with mistakes that people make when trying to increase their squat. Obviously, we'll talk also about how you can go about doing it effectively, but what are some things that you've seen people do to try get a bigger squat, but doesn't quite seem to work?
So what I used to make, I've made this mistake many times, and I've seen it very common as well, especially among strongman athletes and taller athletes. But basically, just going too heavy on your squats all the time to that point. So strongmen tend to have such strong posterior chains because we're picking stuff up off the floor all the time. And if you squat too heavy, you're going to reach that point where your quads aren't really doing too much work, and it's just all hip extension. So it almost turns into like a good morning, this type of motion, which in the short term, right, it's allowing you can load the squat heavier. Let's say you've got a powerlifting competition, you're not too concerned about your technique, you just want to maximize it, so be it. But I think it really holds back long-term progress. And for myself, it definitely did. So I would say that's basically falling into a trap. It's not only a technical thing, but just a lot of the time, if there's that big imbalance between like posterior chain and then your quads, you're going to be able to significantly do basically a good morning, like a significantly heavier good morning than you would be able to do like a more kind of high bar upright torso style squat. And if you're constantly, like, let's say you're not thinking too much about which technique you're using, and you're just like, okay, I have to go 2 reps in reserve. I'm doing my five reps at 2 reps reserve. You're going to end up loading it so heavy that you're essentially just training those hip extensors more and more, like your hammies, glutes, and lower back. So I think a very common mistake is not, in the strongman world anyway, is not emphasizing those quads and like scaling back the weight, allowing them to work a little bit more, and really forcing yourself to stay upright. And something I think you can easily do so this is what I found was right. So I could probably, back when I had this issue a lot, I could basically good morning like almost 300 kilos. It was ridiculously ugly. Yeah, I remember doing a low bar squat. I squatted down and I just tipped forward and basically just good morninged it up. But I couldn't come back up nice and upright with it was kind of 220 to 230. So there was such a huge difference. And like my deadlift was at the time around 350 to 360. And then that was my best squat, 300, which was essentially a good morning. And if I just trained going off those reps in reserve or whatever, or off of a percentage, that like I would constantly just be training that pattern. So if you can avoid that mistake of dropping down to a weight that you can actually maintain your upright technique in, and what I found helped me mentally to do this is you can do a little bit of pre-exhaust work for the quads prior. So, leg extensions, some leg press, that sort of thing. But I just found that kind of, because you fatigue the quads a little bit, it kind of took away that mentality that I wasn't training hard, because that's such a big difference. Like if I could do a set essentially good morning, like 260 or something, and my working sets for and having to reduce the load till I could do it properly is going to be like 40 kgs less. Mentally, it would just put me off. Whereas if I could at least pre-exhaust the quads a little bit, it would just help me to feel like I'm working uh, that bit harder. So that would be
Yeah.
like in the strongman world, I see this a lot because, like I said, we're picking stuff up off the ground all the time. Hammies, glutes, lower back, ridiculously strong. But a lot of the times we're in a position where the shin's relatively vertical, so we're not hitting the quads as much.
Uh, what to take on using on like Smolov shaker or mainly Smolov routines where it's like stupid volume um, for however
For
many weeks,
for strongman,
or just maybe in general as well.
and I definitely would not recommend it for strongman. If you're training any kind of events, it's just too much on top of it. Shaco, I think, has some appropriate training cycles. Like I quite like personally for squatting. If squats are a big focus, at least squatting twice a week, I think makes a big difference. Just getting more practice in
Mm.
and making it a priority. Smolov, I have done it many times in the past, got some ridiculously fast gains out of it, but that is kind of all I found it was at the end of the day. So Smolov was 4 days a week, ridiculously high volume. You're pretty much just doing squats, and it it did work in the sense that it would lead me to a bigger squat, but it also I would find the period after I finished doing that style of training, because I was trying to return to like regular kind of volumes, my top strength would come down a lot. And I would also find as I got stronger, so as a beginner and being a heavyweight, like it's not like I was lifting much comparative to my body weight at all. Once you actually have a decent level of strength, it takes a huge toll on the body and on the
Mm.
joints. So if I could see a specific, like if you just really wanted to focus on squat, if you're just more of a recreational lifter who just loves squatting and you want to do that more often and your body feels fine with it, I could see a place for it. But in general, I would go with a more conservative approach with something
Mm.
like a heavier squat day and then a lighter squat day. For the context of strongman or powerlifting, anyway. Obviously, weightlifting is a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah. Mona, obviously, weightlifters are known for having some of the strongest squats in the world. Let's maybe move away from maybe the mistakes and jump into maybe your top tips or top methods for getting a huge squat as a weightlifter.
Yeah, so obviously in weightlifting, you squat in every single movement. So having a big squat or a strong squat is obviously really important. And often what I see is when an athlete isn't really progressing in their lifting, doing more lifting isn't necessarily going to get them stronger. But what's going to get them stronger is things like pulls and squats. And what I've also noticed, like over my years as being an athlete and even as a coach, where because of the way you squat and the way you pull as a weightlifter, they often go hand in hand. So what I'll find is like if your squat goes up, you'll find that your pulls become easier as well. And as your pulls go up, your squat becomes easier. And it's just the way that you squat. Now, when it came to myself, and again, you get athletes who are different with this. And I believe it's also technique wise and also just the emphasis they put in it, because in weightlifting you'll obviously have the back squat and the front squat, and in weightlifting you won't see anyone low bar squat because that's not the technique that you're going to be using when you lift. So you want to make sure that you do a high bar squat. And one thing that I also wanted to emphasize is even if to get a big squat, and especially when you get to the heavier weights, often, yes, the technique is really important. But another thing that is really important with weightlifting is the aggression that you put into the lift. And I have seen this and I've experienced this myself. If I take a weight and I'm not really tight, I'm not aggressive with my squat. That's normally if I go for say a new 1 rep max or just a heavy single, whatever. That's when I tend to run into problems. And obviously with the squat as well is, yes, you work your quads, your glutes, your hamstrings, but with weightlifting as well, the squat works every single muscle. It's such an amazing exercise, and you often feel like, because you squeeze that bar so hard, like you feel that your upper back working, and all those muscles go obviously hand in hand when it comes to, you know, being a strong weightlifter and also having a strong squat. Now, another thing is, like, what I experienced with my programming throughout the years. Now, I had a very strong front squat. My front squat was, I think it was 141, 142 kilograms, and I'm not quite sure. James, maybe you want to work that out in pounds, for if we have anyone that listens in
It's like
pounds.
320. It's like 315, 320
Yeah,
pounds.
yeah, it's like 300 and something pounds, but my back squat was 150. So obviously with those two being close together, but I didn't really care, and my coach didn't really care at the time, because at the end of the day, when you have a weight on you as a weightlifter, it's going to be in the same position as the front squat anyways, especially with a clean. And I found I never ever had a problem. If doesn't matter how heavy the weight is, when I got it onto my shoulders, I could stand up with that weight. And obviously the front squat and the back squat has different emphasis. But for me personally, even though the back squat, for a lot of lifters, they can do a lot more than what they can do front squat. I obviously was really strong. I was a strong lifter in the front squat. And that's also something that with my own athletes, and again, I will look at each one individually, but I always say, you know, if you've got a strong front squat, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Back squats, yes, it's obviously important, because you want to make sure, again, and this is what we spoke about, I think it was last week as well, even with the press, when we were talking about pushing your feet into the ground. Now, that's another great little technique cue that you can use when you do squats. And with weightlifting squats as well, it's not just about, okay, you want to break parallel and get up. You want to get fully down. So like what they say, your ass to grass type squat. You want to use that bounce to get up, because again, that is how you're going to lift. So again, with your squats and your Olympic lifts, you want to make sure that those movements mimic each other and they have a transfer to each other at the end of the day. Now, also when it comes to having a big squat, things that are important is obviously your rep ranges. And yes, if you want to get stronger in the squat, you need to squat. But changing things up a bit is also really good. And things that I found, you know, help with like building strength are things like, you know, pause squats, tempo squats. Yes, there's a time and place for doing volume squats or volume squat cycles. But if you want to get really strong in your squats, I often, you know, would say, you know, do some pause squats, some tempo squats, you know, for a couple of weeks, and then go into, you know, building up your squat after that. But doing reps between, like, if you're going for a 1 rep max, you want to do between 1 and 3 repetitions, because as weightlifters, we don't really have to worry about, you know, having a big conditioning base. And again, for strength emphasis, you don't want to do a lot of repetitions in any ways. But like I said, there is a time and place. So often in like a weightlifter's off season, that's when they will do, you know, your volume cycles, and that will carry over to your strength cycles as well, to get a bigger squat at the end of the day, because, you know, just having that extra recovery does help. And also it helps just heal the, you know, the joints and the ligaments, and just for your body to feel better again, because obviously you can't go as heavy with when you do your volume cycles. And I'm not sure if Cole mentioned this when he talked about squats, because I joined a bit late, but another thing is, when you train your squats, because it's such a taxing movement, yes, it can affect your nervous system. So it's not something that you can do all the time. You can't go heavy all the time, because at the end of the day, and also as a weightlifter, every single movement is a squat. Now you squat heavy every single day, week after week, you will get fatigued, and potentially, you know, obviously you don't want to get injured. So you have to take things, you know, you have to have a little deload week. You have to make sure that, you know, you work on specific cycles where there's, progression where you go heavier each week, but do have little lighter deload weeks to make sure that you do get that recovery in. And that is more just to make sure that you recover, you give that body a rest, and you don't push that body into the ground at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I echo the point you made about the volume stuff. Some people might go down those volume cycles or 20 rep squat cycles, but none of that's going to get you a stronger squat, get you bigger legs, and you'll be more conditioned, but that's not going to help you lift more in the 1RM area. But funny enough, we're talking about Smolov and you're talking about squatting every day. Obviously, squat every day was super popular over a decade ago. I don't know if you guys remember that or if you ever tried it, but just the idea of essentially going to a daily max on different squat variations every day. And that was all the rage. Books
Yeah,
on it and all sorts of stuff. I don't know if you ran that column at all.
I never tried it, but I had done Smolov quite a bit, but yeah, I did kind of fall into that mentality. They kind of pushed that. Do you remember the how you feel is a lie?
Yeah.
So they would just kind of encourage you, even if you're feeling absolutely destroyed, you got to go in and get your max squat done. Yeah, I never did it myself, and personally not the biggest fan of it now, but definitely interesting.
Yeah, that was
I, I,
it,
I feel like that's also similar to like the Bulgarian style where,
it was I
you
think
go
it
heavy.
was based off the
Yeah,
Bulgarian style, I think, but
Okay.
modified for the general
Okay.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would not even recommend a general person to ever do that. I had an Instagram question today, which was actually quite
Yeah.
interesting because it kind of goes hand in hand in what we're talking about now. Because it was, he just started back up training. He wants to get stronger because he hasn't been training for years. What do I recommend? Is there anything he needs to take? Should he go to, taking steroids
Huh?
and things like that?
Who's
And
asking
yeah,
you
I
this?
had, huh?
Who's
I
asking?
won't reveal names because they want their privacy. They actually asked me if they can send it as a private message. And at the end of the day, I said to him, you need to play the long game, and you need to look at a whole bunch of other things. You need to look at. I see Colm laughing there, but you
it
need
was
to have.
me. I asked.
Were you the culprit? No, but yeah, it's it has to do with eating properly, making sure you get enough nutrition and making sure your recovery is good, making sure, you sleep enough, making sure you follow a good training program. Don't be stupid
The
with your
Lift Big
training.
Eat
And
Big training program, correct?
yes, the Lift Big, Eat Big training program. I don't know if you actually mentioned I do have a front squat cycle on our app.
Oh, I didn't mention that. I mentioned it like
Yeah.
in the beginning, but good plug.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if you do want to get a big squat, you need to do my Lift Big, Eat Big front
I
squat
did that
cycle.
one, right? That's the one I did. Yeah,
Yes, and you
I made
did see
gains on
gains,
that.
and yeah, and also I based it off of a lot of like the methodology that I've used as an athlete and what I've programmed for my athletes over the years, and I've had a lot of success with it, which is that's why I believe in it. But in any case, with regards to what that person was saying to me, I said, at the end of the day, you have to play the long game. There's no shortcuts. There's no over a pill that you can take and overnight you're just going to get strong. At the end of the day, if you want to get strong, you want to make sure that you follow that same foundational process. You have to make sure that it's and also you've got to be patient. It's not something where you have to rush the process. So many people out there, they want to get strong so quickly. Um, and that's also, especially if someone comes to you who's a little bit older and they see youngsters lifting big weights, and they say, how can I get strong really fast, or I want to compete in a competition and this is what I want to lift. And you need to explain to them, but especially as a coach, you can't make these promises. No one's going to get strong in a month or 2 months. Often these athletes that they see have been training their whole lives. So you need to know that if in order for you to get there, you need to follow the process and you need to be patient.
What was his?
And yeah, just
Was
do
his
the work.
question just about if he should get on the juice for coming?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And why? What?
Yeah, they were asking my advice of how to get stronger. Do I recommend
Uh,
they take juice?
what's this?
And I
What's this
said,
person's
no.
background?
CrossFit.
CrossFit. They've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. They were, and then they stopped for a long time,
Okay,
apparently. And now they started back
okay,
up.
and they want to get
And now they want fast results.
and they want to get stronger for CrossFit.
Stronger for CrossFit. Well, stronger in general,
Yeah.
I'm assuming. I don't know if this person has a goal of competing in high level competition or
Yeah.
anything like that. But yeah, we didn't quite go
Yeah.
into that. But
For that or a bit, yeah. As Mona said, yeah, you want to the problem with when people start looking to go on the gear is they don't realize like most of the time you've got to start doing it for life. You need to maintain your blood work, you need to check all that kind of stuff, and then obviously the expense every month. And if you're traveling overseas or whatever, then you're going to run into more problems because you can't just take it with you overseas, that kind of stuff. um, Regarding strength for CrossFit, not for CrossFit, if you're wanting to compete in CrossFit and get stronger, you're probably going to have to do your own, I guess, your own training outside of a CrossFit class. A typical CrossFit class probably isn't going to get you strong because that's not the goal of a CrossFit class. The goal of a CrossFit class is typically just to get a workout, make the people happy, like they got a sweat, and then go home. You'll see professional CrossFitters don't do typical CrossFit to get better at CrossFit. They'll use elements of it, but they'll target certain things. So if they are going through a strength phase, that will be a priority within their training. It won't just be multiple WODs in a row or whatever it is, or just working up to a max. Um, there are some things that you need to do. If it's just general strength, if you just want to be strong, um, ideally you would do less CrossFit and you would do more actual strength training, which means more rest, slightly heavier weights, cycling things there. And obviously we've got, as Mona mentioned, heaps of different programs and those big underground to get you there too. But yeah, typically the advice is to stay away from that stuff. And yeah, it's just going to take hard work. And when you progress really fast using that stuff too, obviously the muscles adapt, but the tendons don't. And that's where you see big ruptures and things like that. I don't know what your take on all that is, Colin.
Yeah, similar. I just agree with you, to be honest.
No, that was easy.
I actually wanted to say that, like, I actually have a few CrossFitters that are on our Lift Big Eat Big programming, and a lot of them are doing the weightlifting programming to get stronger. Obviously, especially in the Olympic lifts, so that when they do go into their CrossFit, and one thing I even found with competing in CrossFit is because I have such a big strength base that even my gymnastics movements became a lot easier. So all of those things has a lot more benefits. And at the end of the day, like what you were saying, James, is you need to make sure that, like, if you want to get stronger, you can't just do a CrossFit class, because often a CrossFit class is 45 minutes to an hour. Often they'll be like 10 to 15 minutes warm up. You'll do your strength movement for 15 minutes, and to build up and do sets and actually get the right emphasis, it's just too short of a time. And at the end of the day, you might just go into a class, get a nice little sweat, and that's it. But if you do have, say, bigger goals where you do want to compete, and you do want to take it, to the next level, say you want to compete, in the open, and then go to like, semifinals and all of those kind of competitions, and just compete in general, I do recommend that you do something on top of that. But then also one thing that's nice is, I know I'm plugging our stuff here a lot, but like even with our community, that's cool, is like you have again this opportunity to ask, myself or you, James or Colm, these kind of questions, because you don't have to feel lost, because I feel like that's the biggest thing when someone wants to get a program and they want to get stronger, or they want to get a bigger squat, or they want to get stronger in Olympic lifting. At the end of the day, what they'll do is they will maybe get a program, but they'll feel lost, because you do need a coach to guide you, and you do need expert advice, to be able to just let you know, this is a good idea, maybe cut back a little bit on that, and just kind of guide you in order to make sure that you do things correctly.
Yeah, because not every program's going to fit everyone's lifestyle, right? So if you're doing 4 CrossFit classes a week, and then you have a program that has another 3 or 4 days, you can't do it all. And just having someone to guide you with that is there. Like, obviously, Com's new, his conjugate style strongman program, it's fully customizable. It's a 4-week base, and depending on the events you have or your weaknesses, Com can advise you on what lifts to use on those certain days. So things like that, it's much better doing it that way, and then having that. Oh my gosh, our dog is crazy. She's excited about squats, apparently. And then I guess the other thing about squats is, obviously there are multiple different kinds of squats. Mona talked about high bar, low bar, front squat. For you guys, let's start with you, Coleman. There, how are you ever varying the type of squat you're using to build the squat? Are you just saying super specific? I'm trying to get a massive squat. I'm going to squat like this in competition. So I'm going to, for powerlifting or strongman, so it means I'm always going to do low bar in my training regardless.
Yeah, so I use a ton of different variations with both myself and my clients, and I would say all squats are beautiful squats. So I wouldn't discriminate against any kinds. They're all good squats. If you are doing a form of squat, in my eyes, you're winning. You're on the right path. So I do deal with a lot of clients with a lot of previous injuries. They can't necessarily do a nice upright forward knee travel high bar squat. So a lot of the times my go-to would be a safety squat bar to a box. And this is still a fantastic squat. It's still going to transfer to other things. I do think it's okay. This is something I struggled with for a long time, especially when my patellar tendonitis was playing up really bad. I would feel almost guilty for not doing one of these nice squats. I would feel guilty about squatting to a box, but they're still fine. They're still fantastic variations. It's about doing what you can do for your body. Not everyone, like my favorite style of squat is like sometimes I check it on YouTube. There's this video of the Chinese weightlifting team warming up or something, and they're all doing squats in one of the training halls, and it just looks insane. Their torsos are like nice and upright. It looks incredible. There's no way I could squat like that, especially when my knees are playing up. So I would have to go to a more vertical shin position and perhaps squat to a box. For the context of strongman, it still absolutely carries over. And I would say basically, because that's kind of a common squat is not normally a competition lift for us. So I often get asked what variation I would go with. And basically the first step is just do whatever squat your body can tolerate and that you can do consistently. So it doesn't mean like if you can do a low bar squat 1 week, but then your biceps are going to be playing up, your shoulders, elbows are no good. We need to find a variation that's okay. So specialty bars are fantastic, especially for a lot of the big strongman guys or people with previous shoulder injuries. So safety squat bar where you hold the handles in front, that kind of yoke bar where you hold the handles on the side. I guess it's called a cambered bar. The Duffalo bar with the bend in it is another nice option. But basically any of those to a depth that you can tolerate, I would say go as deep as you can tolerate. So don't just do a quarter squat because that's what you want to do. Ideally, you want to go as deep as you can. That being said, if you're perhaps a younger athlete or your body just feels good, I would recommend, and I lean towards for strongman, 3 main variations. So high bar squat, front squat, and safety bar squat to a nice full depth. So I do, like my personal favorites are definitely weightlifting squats, weightlifting style squats with the torso nice and upright to a nice deep position. All 3 of those variations, though, carry over very nicely to strongman. And the safety squat bar itself is very similar to a high bar, but without, because we do so much pressing, sometimes the elbows and shoulders can get quite tight, and just holding the barbell can be a little bit much. So safety squat bar is fantastic. And the reason, so even if you're doing a safety squat bar, again, if you're capable, I would push you towards doing that one with the forward knee travel, torso nice and upright, weightlifting style, because I just think it carries over and complements the rest of strongman very nicely. So like I was saying before, how we already do so much hinging work, you're picking up stones, anything like this, we're constantly picking something up off the floor. If we do a movement that has a large degree of this forward knee travel and the quads get involved a lot, it carries over very nicely to overhead. So when you're putting up anything overhead, having a nice upright torso and actually using the quads to accelerate upwards is going to carry over better than a low bar where you're sitting back and the shins are very vertical. And the other reason it carries over, so a front squat, having a lot of the stuff we do, we're carrying something in front of the body. So a front squat's fantastic for this. I think it's a great assistance, again, like with log cleans, again, putting log up overhead, but things like stones, or sometimes you just get these odd objects in strongman, and having the ability to be strong in a nice deep position that you're then going to stand up from and, chuck an object up onto a platform is such a huge advantage. So if you're young enough, I would basically treat the squat like the weightlifters treat the squat. Well, I suppose you have to do it for all your lifts, but do your mobility work on your ankle flexibility, and basically think of it as an investment. If you can develop a nice, good looking high bar squat now, it's going to pay dividends down the line. And when you do get a competition with these odd objects where you have to sit super deep, you're going to have strength and mobility in that position. So it pays off long term. If you can't though, so I will just end on saying kind of what I started with. If you can't for whatever reason because of injuries, don't stress and just do the squat variation that you can. You're still going to be able to make progress with that.
Before getting back to the podcast, I want to let you know that down in the description is a link to the Lift Big, Eat Big Underground. And within that, you get access to all our training programs, online courses, and into our private Discord community, where all three of us are in there to help you with whatever it is with your training. Regarding the programs, we have Mona, who's done all of the weightlifting cycles. We have Colm, who's done the strongman off-season and strongman competition programs. Then we have all the hallmark Lift Big, Eat Big training programs, Pump Dragon, Flanks Method, and many more. And I've also added muscle building specialization programs within that and are continuing to update and add training programs into our app. You also get access to Mona's Weightlifting Mastery online course, and you get to join these calls live in the audience where you can ask members only question and answers at the end of each episode. So if that sounds like you, go down in the description. There's a link there to the Lift Big, Eat Big Underground, and that'll give you access to everything I just mentioned. Nice. And for anyone listening, feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. But for powerlifting then, are you still running the same philosophy? You're looking to vary up to not just low bar squatting all the time?
Yep, I would like really nice and simple for powerlifting. Most of the time, it's going to be the low bar squat is what you can load the most weight with. But I think personally, I feel like those torso vertical positions are going to build the squat better than just doing exclusively low bar, because a 12-week training cycle. So if your body's totally fine and you can handle 12 weeks of low bar squatting, that's probably going to be the best thing you can do. But a lot of the times that low bar position, you'll find maybe 6 weeks in, your elbows are aching. That's then going to affect your bench press performance. So I would tend to try to use low bar a little bit less. And the two ways I would do that are either, let's say you might do up to a top single, low bar, whatever, let's say 8 RPE, and then you might do one back off. And then after that, you'll do a bunch of maybe pause high bars, something like that. I think of those as more building the strength. And then the low bar is basically you expressing the strength. The other option is to do it in phases. So you could do, say, 4 weeks of high bar, or like 4 weeks of high bar pause, and then 4 weeks of high bar, and then 4 weeks of low bar. But it really depends on the person's proficiency with the movement. Like a really advanced lifter who's trained for years, they might only need like 2 or 3 sessions to get hold of get the hang of the low bar again. Whereas someone else, they might need 6 weeks of it or something like that. You really kind of have to weigh up the cost that it's going to have on your body in terms of injury, and then how much time you have and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Nice. And in weightlifting, Mona, so there's obviously a school of thought as well that you can just front squat. So there's some people that will only front squat and essentially not use the back squat at all. What's your take on that? Do you think that's viable for a weightlifter to do, to only front squat? Is there a reason someone should only front squat or not?
Well, the thing is, I've actually heard of people that just front squat. But if you are a competitive weightlifter, you want to do front and back squats, because back squats, even though, it seems like, okay, in a clean, I'm in the front squat position with my elbows up in the front rack position. At the end of the day, like the back squats again has other benefits. And what I tend to find is with the back squats, it helps a lot as well with your snatches. And just that position of, being a lot more upright with your snatches, and just again driving your feet through the ground, training that upper back as well, because obviously you have to squeeze really tight, making sure that upper back is nice and tight. So it's important to train both. And I tend to find as well, like strengthening the upper back again with things like your back squats will also help with your front squats to help you to not round forward. So if you're a competitive weightlifter, unless you've got some kind of an injury, because I know, like Colm said earlier, if you can't squat, do the squat that you at least can squat. And if you've got some kind of an injury, a knee injury or whatever, and you tend to find that front squat is the only thing that doesn't hurt your knee, yes, by all means do then or just do your front squats. But if you're a competitive athlete, I would definitely recommend, doing both back squat and front squat. Again, you can do things like front squat cycles, but they will have back squats in them as well. So again, there's a time and place for both of these movements. And also with the front squats, what I actually wanted to mention and what Cole mentioned with the mobility is obviously super important. And without a doubt, if you are an athlete, like that's one of the first things that you want to make sure if you do battle with mobility, and also checking the ankles, because often it comes from the ankles being just super tight. And that's also where a weightlifting shoe comes into play as well. With the heel lifted a little bit, you tend to find that people do have a bit more mobility and can sit in a squat easier. And also what you were talking about, like low bar and high bar squats earlier. I know, James, you said, front squat and back squat, but I actually wanted to mention, so there was actually a time where I was training powerlifting. It was many moons ago, but I ended up getting my back squat to 180 kilos for a double. But it
how
had
much were you
zero
weighing?
I was probably about 58 kilos at the time. And it ended up having actually zero transfer to my lifting. My lifting actually became worse. And that is also why, because so with doing back squats and doing front squats, like Colm was saying earlier, with keeping your torso nice and upright, it's just so important to have all your accessory work having a good transfer to your actual weightlifting movements. Because if you do things differently, so for me, again, if I low bar squat, that's not the way I'm going to be lifting. So that ended up messing up more, like the way I lifted, my technique went out of the window. It just wasn't a good fit for me. And it also hasn't been good fit for other weightlifters that I've seen. So if someone comes to me and they're like, should I do high bar or low bar? Then I always say, if you're a weightlifter, you don't need to do anything other than high bar back squats. But like what I said earlier, combining front squats and back squats is essential in order to get stronger in weightlifting.
Nice. Now I'm going to round out this segment again, bringing my favorite book into this. If you're watching this on YouTube, Dinosaur Training. I showed this last week, but there's also...
You should be an affiliate for Dinosaur Training because you promote it so much.
Put it in the description. I'm going to make like 2 cents a sale. And then same author, Strength, Muscle, and Power. And then I've got his other one, Chalk and Sweat, up there. But these have legit programs, squatting stuff, and I've run heaps of different cycles of that. But one of the things I really love from that is squatting from the pins, power rack. So doing from the dead stop. So Anderson squats, basically. But Anderson squats usually refer to the front rack position, but you can also do it in the back squat position. I've done that. But I don't do it the pussy way that all these powerlifters do recently on Instagram, where they start from the top and they like squat down to the pins. And you're like, that defeats the purpose, Like you still got all that stored elastic energy unless you like literally go limp or something like that. I'm talking about like starting at the very bottom with that load there. That is straight killer. That'll make you stupidly strong. I've done it a fair few times. It's pretty brutal though. If you have like niggly knees or lower back and stuff, then you should probably avoid it. But it's epic to do. So you can do your normal squats, for example. You might do like your 3-5s, 5-5s, 3-3s, whatever it is, your strength work, and then sit up in the bottom position. That's like your accessory stuff. And you can do singles, working up to like a moderate single, or you can do doubles. You can do your my favorite set rep scheme, the 5-4-3-2-1, working up to a heavy one. Things like that are awesome. And yeah, the dead stop with the front rack position, it teaches you to get really, really tight before you push, because if you're not tight, you're done. So that stuff's really nice for variation as well. And if you just want brute raw strength, like those are the lifts to do it. Like if you can push 140 kilos or whatever off the bottom pins, you can squat 140 kilos easy, because you've literally just done it from a dead stop from the bottom position without having to lower the bar. So that's something that you can try as well within your programs if you're looking for something different. And then I think that rounds up all the squatting within that. Those are pretty much, I think that's pretty much all the advice we have around there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this on you, Mona, because the CrossFit Games semi-finals have been running recently all over YouTube all day because of all the different time zones. What are your initial thoughts of what's going on? There's Europe CrossFit, the Europe semi-finals are coming up starting tomorrow. but we've had all the American ones going now. So, what have you seen on there so far?
So one of the observations that I've actually made is there's a lot of CrossFit Games athletes who has actually not past that's going to the games this year, that either got, disqualified for some reason or had massive penalties against them, and for various other reasons. And it will be interesting to see this year's CrossFit Games, just because there's so many that got disqualified or who's not going to the CrossFit Games due to, all of these penalties. And one thing is, obviously, back in my day when I competed at the CrossFit Games, we did regionals, which was in front of, proper judges. It was standardized, everything. And then from regionals, if you win regionals, then you went to the CrossFit Games. Where now, obviously, the rules of CrossFit is a lot different. They've got obviously like the open, and I think that's where a lot of people ran into problems. And then obviously, with the semifinals, and it's just, people just not, doing things properly and following, what would I, James, maybe you can help me with the word.
The rules?
Following the rules, but I wanted to use a better word for that. But just not following exactly what is being said, like the protocols. And then obviously when CrossFit does look at the videos, there's a lot of athletes. And I know one is like Brooke Wells. She's not going. Danny Spiegel, she's not going to the CrossFit Games. Obviously, I know a lot more females. I think Lauren Fisher as well is not going to the CrossFit Games. And, just these are ones that, a lot of athletes look up to these athletes. And I think Annie Thorisdottir, so for those that know, obviously a lot of, or everyone will know Annie. I think Annie also is not going to the CrossFit Games this year. And I might be mistaken about that one, so I just have to double check. But the thing is, just things that I've heard, even with the semifinals and how the countries have done things differently. I heard, for example, one country, and it might be in Africa, it might not. I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to check my facts on that. What ended up happening with one of the sled movements, they ended up doing it on a carpet, and it was like a movable carpet or something, and the carpet ended up moving with the sled. So the athletes ended up, battling their butts off and ended up struggling for 30 minutes to move the thing. And I don't even know what else. But to me, it's like, why wasn't these things tested prior? If you want to run such a big event and, you want to have things like your semifinals and then have the athletes, score points to go into a next round and then go to CrossFit Games, for example, like you need to make sure firstly it's standardized. So every single country needs to do it the same way. If this country is using a carpet to do a sled drag, then every single country must use a carpet to do a sled drag on, or vice versa. So you need to make sure that things are standardized. I've just heard quite a few, more negative things about this year's semifinals than positives. Again, we'll have to see at the CrossFit Games, who are all there, who made it. I know there's a few new faces that we'll be seeing. I know Bethany Sharborn, she was one that was injured before, and now she's made the CrossFit Games again. I think the last time she was at the CrossFit Games might have been like 2 or 3 years ago. So another exciting one to watch. But yeah, it kind of feels like they doing too many things, trying to make too many changes, trying to be too fancy at the end of the day. And what often happens, in sport, when people try to go too fancy, it leads to mistakes.
Well, even if it's not standardized, though, because they're only competing within their country, right? Or their continent. So, yeah, so they're not competing against all the other regions for their semifinals.
Yes. So if, for example, if, they'll all be battling. If one battles, all will be battling. But, things like that could lead to injuries.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the stuff like the mistakes also can play a big role. You need to make sure that athlete safety is looked at first, because if an athlete gets injured, I know there was one athlete who actually ended up tearing his pec, and then he ended up moving to, the next round, to the next event. and they had to do muscle ups, and he ended up attempting the muscle ups. He just did a pull up just to kind of stay in the game, because he still knew like his points would be carried over. And what ended up happening was they ended up disqualifying him, because they said, it's unfair, he's not trying hard enough. There's other athletes out there who actually doing the movement. But then there's athletes who, for example, were trying to do the muscle ups, who couldn't do the muscle ups, who ended up progressing, to the next round. So again,
yeah, that was
you just need to make sure.
That was the stupidest thing ever. I don't know if you heard that, Colm. This dude tore his pec doing dumbbell bench, and then I think he asked him,
and that was one of the events.
Yeah, that was one of the events.
Dumbbell bench.
And then the next event, I think he was asking if he could just do like what he could, right, and continue
the bare minimum
to qualify, because he already had the points to qualify for the games. So he just had to do the event just so he could participate. And so we just did the pull-up portion of the muscle up, and then didn't go through. And then I think only afterwards, then they decided to disqualify him.
Yeah, because he actually asked them prior, and he said, and they still said, oh, they'll get back to him. But normally there's a minimum requirement. So, even if it's you just trying or having to do one rep, but they couldn't give him a minimum requirement. They didn't even know. And this comes from CrossFit HQ. And then they ended up, or the head judge ended up saying, because you're not doing a movement and you're not trying hard enough, we have to.
So then what about the other people that couldn't do the muscle up?
Some of them actually are going to the CrossFit Games.
The ones that couldn't do a muscle up?
So they couldn't do a muscle up, but because they tried to get into that ring and they just couldn't, because they were just dead from the previous workout, they still ended up getting the points, but he ended up actually being disqualified from the event. So that's where there's a lot of fight. He made a live video. I should actually see if I can find that and post it on the Lift Big Eat Big Instagram, because I know there's been a lot of people who has, spoken about it, made YouTube videos about this specific guy. And yeah, just I'll post it, and if it's still up, so that you guys can make your own interpretation of what you think about this and what you think about, the judging around, the semifinals. And then go from there.
Stupid.
How big a gap is it between the finals?
I don't know, actually. When is the CrossFit Games?
Normally it's in August.
Okay.
And I can quickly look up for you. But so it's about June, July, August.
Yeah.
So let's check.
In theory, he could rehab his pec a bit, depending on the events.
And then hope there's no bench press.
Yeah, and still do well at the games.
Yes.
But
his whole goal was, he didn't want to injure it even further.
Yeah.
Because of the CrossFit Games coming up. Because now he fully tears it off, and now he has to rehab for 6 months or however long. So he injured it, but he just wanted to do the bare minimum so he can still stay in and not continue to re-injure himself.
What's
CrossFit Games 2023.
What's the updates on that USAW Masters stuff? No. What the hell's going on there? Because didn't the Masters athlete or the Masters group release a statement as well?
Yeah, they did. I just wanted to quickly also say, so the CrossFit Games is 1 to 6 August this year. So he would have been able to, rehab it and done everything that he had to do. But I guess,
easy.
some rules are for others and some doesn't count for others.
Where's he from?
USA. Yeah. I have to pull up his video because I cannot remember his name now. That's why I said what I'll do is I'll actually post it on our Lift Big Eat Big Instagram so that everyone can see, and I'll tag you guys in it as well. Because that was very silly, and it just seemed that like I said, they just come up with all these fancy ideas and all these fancy exercises, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure you've got a plan A, B, C, D, E. If anything happens to an athlete, if an athlete, if there is a minimum requirement, because these are things that's always been there in the past. And now for this semifinals, they ended up not having a minimum, and then decided that because he couldn't do the movement, only afterwards they are going to disqualify him and he can't continue on to the next events.
Gotcha. Did you want to go that master stuff?
Yeah. So I haven't gone into more detail about that, reading up on it, but I do know that USA Masters did end up releasing a video, making a statement. And I also know that USAW obviously also released a video regarding this, basically saying their say. And at the end of the day, what they've decided is you can join either or. If you want to be with USAW, then, you can be with USAW, or you can be with the new entity that they are starting. But at the end of the day, also, if you've got athletes that are competing, younger athletes, juniors, youth, whatever, you have to still be registered with USAW. So the stupid thing is you have to be then registered with, if you wanted to be with the new entity, be registered with the new entity and USAW. It seems that they still, arguing about this thing. I think there's still a lot of confusion, even though they've both released statements. It also sounded like USAW is going to take it further. They are going to be getting legal parties involved, because things were just not done ethically and correctly by this new entity. So I guess we'll see maybe in the next month or so what transpires with this.
Yeah. Now it's always a shit show with this stuff. Com, is there anything going on? I think there was competition, right, where you were, right, just recently?
Yeah, so in New Zealand they had the National Log and Deadlift Championships, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Sean Logan, originally from the UK, but he's the first person over here to deadlift 1,000 pounds. And 1,000 pounds, so in strongman rules, is a massive. I mean, it's a massive lift in any rules, right? But I would like to see him at the Giants Hive World Championships. Unfortunately, kind of like we've spoken about in the past, it's more of, there's not a direct qualifying route, so it's one of those things that's a bit hard. He has to hope he just gets invited, but hopefully we'll see him there. But to put some perspective on that, 1,000 pounds, that'll be surely that would still be top 10 in the world. But back when I got into strongman, the world record in the strongman deadlift was 430. So it's pretty crazy to see the progress that's been made. Now the world record,
430 kilos, right?
Yep. And so that's with suit, straps, hitch, anything goes basically. And so now the world record is 500 or 501, whether you want to go with Eddie or Thor. It's come up a lot, and just the fact that it's crazy to me as someone who started when that was the world record. Now we've got Sean, Matthew Ragg, who made the finals this year. He's probably capable of the similar lift. That we've got so many people lifting higher than the world record now. It's crazy. But it does make me excited to see what's going to happen in the future as well. I think we're going to see some crazy numbers.
Does that mean you're making a deadlift comeback?
Maybe next year. We'll see. I did deadlift this morning. I'm enjoying them. But yeah, we'll see. My best is 410 in a suit. Would have had more in the tank for sure, but even at my very best, I wouldn't have been able to do 455 for sure. No way. So yeah, I think it's basically nice to see though, both Matt and Sean, even though he's originally from the UK, I feel like they're putting NZ on the map, worldwide, strength-wise. Just it's an overlooked. Oceania in general tends to get overlooked, especially with strongman mainly being based out of the UK. But there's some really, really strong, world-class strong guys here. I mean, Matt's top 10 strongest man in the world now. So yeah, it's cool to see.
Nice. Also, we have to do a deadlift episode in the near future, maybe even next week, to talk how to get these big numbers. But I think we covered all the topics today. But make sure check the links in the description. Lift Big Big Underground. There's programs down there too. You can check all those out and make sure to subscribe, share it, and tune in next week. It'll probably be the same time, same day. And if not, there's always the replay. We post every single Monday, and you can listen to that on all your favorite podcast platforms and YouTube. Make sure you make sure you give us a rating, a follow. Everything helps. All right. See you next week.